Hello, IB English students, and welcome to the video for quarter 4, week 6, days 1 and 2, your last English class. This video is designed for all students, whether you were in class or if you were absent. As a final reminder, everything you say, do, or type is recorded, so please keep it school appropriate. And as has been the case the entire year, there is no saving, downloading, or taking pictures of our class ever. The agenda for today, or this week, you're going to choose an essay response prompt from the Watchman culminating essay list and write your 4-paragraph response, recycling as much of your previous work as possible. I'm going to show you how that's done. So first, if you look at the directions, right, you consider the prompts given below and choose one to respond to. There are 4 choices, right? A, B, C, and D. Your essay response needs to include an introduction paragraph, at least 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. You are highly encouraged to recycle as much of your materials from the reading checks to help you complete this essay. And as you can see here, I'm showing you how you can do that. Let's take a look at each prompt. Choice A doesn't necessarily sync up with any of the reading, the reading check assignments, but it might be something that you may find interesting or just may kind of strike you as worth writing about. Choose a specific inanimate object depicted in Watchmen that's important to the work as a whole, and write an essay in which you show how 2 or 3 of the purposes the object serves are related to one another. Be sure to discuss the author's use of stylistic devices, both literary and comic specific. Right? So you could take one object and talk about how it maybe has a certain significance in the early part of the book and what it represents, what it's doing, what its function is, and then maybe how that same item comes up again later, either in the middle or maybe towards the end, and how that function has changed or how its significance has changed from beginning to end. Choice B, the conflict created when the will of an individual opposes the will of the majority is the recurring theme of many novels and plays. From Watchmen, select a fictional character who is in opposition to his or her society. In your essay, analyze the conflict and discuss the moral and ethical implications for both the individual and the society that opposes them. This one, you just need to make sure that you don't just end up summarizing the plot, but you also really get into, what does this say about this character's morals, and how is that a reflection on the ethical practices of a society. You can, there's a connection here to your reading check, right? How do the characters that you've analyzed in part 1 of reading checks, how do they represent opposition to and or compliance with social norms, right? You might want to use that as a place to kind of start your search if you're going to choose B. Choice C says, choose a complex and important character in Watchmen who might, on the basis of the character's actions alone, so not what they think, but just what they do, be considered evil or immoral. In a well-organized essay, explain both how and why, 2 things, the full representation or presentation of the character in the work makes us react more sympathetically than we otherwise might. Again, avoid plot summary. There's a strong connection here to what you wrote in part 1 of your reading checks 1 and 2, right? The key thing here is to make sure that you are focusing on how what they do, other people think of them as a villain, but in essence, when you look at their whole person, when you know everything about them, how that you are maybe, or the reader is more sympathetic towards that character and doesn't necessarily see them as, let's say, a 100% villain. Make sure you answer both questions, right? How and why. Maybe 1 body paragraph for how, 1 body paragraph for why. All right, and choice D. Writers often highlight the values of a culture or a society by using characters who are alienated from that culture or society because of their gender, race, class, or creed. Choose a character who plays a significant role in Watchmen and show how that character's alienation reveals the surrounding society's assumptions and moral values. So what does how does that character kind of basically highlight the pitfalls, right? The problems that society has, right? And basically how they, as a society, kind of make that character feel alienated. Again, if you look back at if you look back at part two of the final reading check, you may have already touched on this. So you could kind of recycle some of that information. You also may have touched on this in parts 1 and 2 of the first two reading checks, potentially. If you talked about how, characters weren't getting along with one another. And if you ask yourself, well, wait a second, is that because one character was supposed to represent society and one character was supposed to represent opposition to society and the status quo, etc.? Okay, so once you've made your choice, right, A, B, C, or D, underneath that, there's a box for you to write your essay response. Make sure you delete my directions. And remember that you need 1 introduction paragraph, 2 body paragraphs, and 1 conclusion paragraph. You'll notice underneath I gave sample citations. One was if you had the physical book in front of you, which most of you do not. Most of you are using the PDF. So you would use this citation. The PDF doesn't have specific or individual page numbers, so you have to give like the chapter number and then the page. So it'd be Moore, the author's last name, chapter 7, period 3, right? So Moore 7, period 3. And that explanation is there at the bottom for you to look at as well. Okay, so thank you for watching. Continue reading Watchmen. Oh, sorry. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that. Wrong slide. Your action items are to write the Watchmen culminating essay, which is due before midnight on May 28th. Student support is available from 7:45 to 8:45 a.m. and the Wednesday academic check-in times are listed here below. Once you've turned in that essay, thank you very much. I look forward to reading your essays. I hope you enjoyed reading the comic and writing about the comic as much as I like reading that comic over and over and over again. And I'm just going to say happy graduation to you now. Yeah, it's a little premature, but still, happy graduation to you. Thank you so much for your hard work this year. And I look forward to hearing from you or running into you randomly in the street, or if you come back to Seneca Valley for a visit.